One of Australia's leading conservation groups has questioned the effectiveness of allowing shooters into national parks in New South Wales. Now, the Invasive Species Council has been backed by a professional animal trapper of 40 years' experience, who claims hunters will make his job of controlling feral animals more difficult. Last month, the New South Wales Parliament gave recreational hunters access to 79 parks and nature reserves. John Stewart reports.
Boots has been trapping feral animals for 40 years. He's spent a lifetime perfecting the art of tracking and catching wild dogs, pigs, goats, deer, foxes, rabbits and cats. Boots works for farmers, the forestry industry, national parks and local councils. He and his dog Ripper spend most of the year camped out in the bush, tracking down pests and reducing feral animal numbers. At the moment, he's looking for wild dogs.
There's nothing smarter in the bush than a wild dog. Actually, there's probably nothing smarter than a wild dog in his own environment. They're extremely clever. They learn very fast. You know, like once they get to know you and they know what's going on, mate, it can cost you a huge amount of time to try and catch them. They're very intelligent.
News that thousands of recreational hunters are about to fan out through New South Wales national parks and nature reserves is a major concern for Boots. He says the new shooters will make his work far more difficult.
They'll smell them, along the tracks and they'll avoid that track. Like we've set up off what sign we've found from the wild dogs, and then we'll set our traps accordingly, and then they'll come along and just their presence there and their scent, the dog will come along and go, oh, what's going on here? And he'll dodge off that track and go to another track. And then you'll find they won't use the same path. So then we've got to try and find where they're going all over again, which is not an easy process.
Boots is not only concerned about scent from recreational shooters. He's also worried that hunters will spread feral animal populations, making them harder to catch.
Mostly wild dogs and probably deer. Like pigs are scattered pretty well, now on most land tenure. But wild dogs, they'll definitely disperse them. They'll be a major problem. And deer also. Like deer are, pretty well around the place everywhere now, but they'll be pushing them out into little pockets on farming land and that.
The New South Wales Game Council says that during the past 7 years, recreational hunters have killed more than 73,000 feral animals on public lands throughout the state, and rejects claims that hunters are scaring off wild dogs.
The fact that anyone is on a piece of public land, whether it be a bushwalker, a pushbike rider, motorbike rider, truffle hunter, if we're going to use that argument, then we would be completely shutting our state forest to every single person that goes in there so that the person can remove a wild dog.
The Game Council denies that its hunters are dispersing feral animal populations.
I don't believe it is sufficient to say that we disperse them to the point where a professional shooter could still not go in there with helicopters, for argument's sake, and still target the animals.
Conservation body the Invasive Species Council is critical of allowing recreational hunters into national parks and says that shooting is often not appropriate.
For some species you wouldn't even do any shooting and you would be focusing on baiting and trapping. So it's quite a sophisticated and scientific-based method that the land managers across Australia in national parks, state forest and on private land are already adopting. And there is very little dispute about how that should happen. The program run by the Game Council defies that thinking, and their hunting is very dispersed. It doesn't aim to get the numbers down significantly, and it relies entirely on shooting, and they're the flaws in the system.
But the Game Council says that governments and authorities that run the pest control programs are failing to take advantage of thousands of recreational hunters.
Nobody in that period of time has integrated volunteer conservation hunters into the area after the control programs have gone through to stop the recovery of the residual population. And I think the Invasive Species Council is completely wrong in what they're saying, because there is no research that anyone has ever conducted over a large-scale area using volunteer conservation hunters to prove that it does not have an impact.
Boots believes there'll still be plenty of work for him and Ripper as shooters find new hunting grounds. John Stewart, Late Line.